Bonjour mon petit chifle, Amber here and Mr. Softy. Amber and Mr. Softy here. Oh, I don't know why I'm sitting all the way over here. And one, it's very hot. I'm sorry, so this might make a couple appearances because I had to turn the air and the fan off. Like the fan I keep next to me. Today is July 2nd. And I have been slacking with my videos. I'm aware. I have stated it several times, I know. And with my lack of monthly reading vlogs, which are all on iMovie, and actually most of them are edited already, just waiting to go up. No, I didn't. So with the lack of those, you don't really know what I'm reading lately, unless you follow me on Goodreads or Storygraph. I use both. So I'm going to sit down and do something I haven't done since March. And I'm going to finally film a very belated combined reading wrap up. I know I haven't done one since March, but I'm not going to wrap up my April reading because that's going to be specifically for my April vlog, because my April vlog was a themed reading month. So all of my thoughts about the books that I read in April will be in that vlog. So this video is my May and June reading, and I'm going to pray that I remember anything about any of the books that I read. So I have my reading journal here to remind me the order with which I read the books, because I've been slacking on actually writing my little mini reviews in my reading journal. But I have this notebook here, which is where I keep like my thoughts while reading, my notes while reading, and hopefully I have enough coherent thoughts. I'm going to stop talking because I have 2 months to work through. So in May I read a total of 6 books. I'm very pleased with that number. May is AAPI Heritage Month, so I wanted to focus on reading books by Asian authors and centering Asian characters. So the first book I read was Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. I actually talked very in depth about the plot of this book when I was filming my I'm in a romance book mood. So I'm actually gonna put the clip here so I don't have to struggle and try to recap that, because it was very concise. So I believe this book is like the first of a new series by this author that will be like South Asian Shakespeare retellings of a sort, or at least inspired by Shakespeare. So this one is a take on The Taming of the Shrew, I believe, which, one, I've mentioned it before, I'm a Shakespeare girly. I was in the Shakespeare club in high school, also on the haiku team. One of my responsibilities was Shakespeare, and to like read through all of the works and study that for like competition purposes. I don't remember reading this one though. I'm not saying that I haven't. Not this, but like The Taming of the Shrew. I'm not saying that I haven't, I'm saying I don't remember. Anyway, this book follows Karina, who is a lawyer who now runs like this like startup company, women's startup company. This book starts on her 30th birthday, where she finds out that her father is planning to sell the house that she grew up in, the house that basically her mother built from the ground when they moved to the US, to New Jersey. Come on, East Coast representation. Come on, tri-state area representation. As she became older, she and her mother started doing renovation projects and building on the house, and she continued after her mother died. And her dream was always to keep building on this house, keep working in this house, keeping her mother's legacy alive, and then like inheriting the house herself. That was her mother's plan. And so now that her father is planning to sell it, she's distraught. She strikes a deal with him. Basically she can't afford the down payment on the house herself, but he is holding money from her that she can only get if she gets engaged. So she strikes a deal with him. If she gets engaged before he sells the house, he will give her the money that will enable her to make the down payment and buy her mom's house. The problem is she is having trouble finding a love match, because she wants a marriage founded in true love. On the flip side of this is Prem, who is a doctor. He's a cardiologist. We love that. He also has a TV show. Okay. He also is a TV show host. He's kind of like Dr. Oz, but legitimate. He runs the Dr. Dill show, or hosts the Dr. Dill show, and his intention is he is currently trying to raise the funds to open a clinic dedicated to serving the South Asian community. After an argument between the two of them go viral, both of their reputations are kind of damaged, and both of their prospects for their respective plans are put in jeopardy because he loses like the biggest donor to his clinic, and now he is struggling to find the funds to procure the building that he wants his clinic in. He then is presented with the proposition from Karina's aunties. They end up engaged. They will help him fund the clinic. That, or his mother is also willing to pay him if he gets married. Problem with this is that he does not believe in true love. He does not believe a marriage has to be founded in love, but rather in like mutual respect and a connection. So right off the bat, they are on two very separate pages in two very separate books, but we cannot deny the chemistry and spark between them and attraction between them, and la la la, they get closer, blah blah blah, they're falling in love, yada yada yada. That was a lot of talking. I just realized I'm not doing a wrap-up of this book. I have 90 pages left, but I really wanted to include this in this video. This is what I picked up when I couldn't focus on any fantasy. I read like almost 300 pages of it yesterday, and I will say that it took me a second to really get into it because sometimes I don't like the I'm not 100% in love with the writing style all the time, but I am really into it now. I'm really invested, and I need to see how this ends. Right. So I wanted to love this book. I really did. And I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I didn't love it the way a lot of other people seem to. I really like the premise. I really like the thought of these like South Asian American inspired like Shakespeare retellings, sort of. I love Shakespeare. I'm a Shakespeare girly, so that really, it's so loud. It's so loud. Why is my street so loud right now? This building so loud right now. That really caught my attention and pulled me in. But off the bat, I really didn't like the writing style. I really couldn't vibe with the writing style. It felt very heavy-handed, very overly descriptive, kind of like at points repetitive. Like, we get it, you're 30, I get it, I got it. It sort of fell apart for me, for real, at like the big conflict. So like the last third of the book, basically, without really spoiling anything. What happens between Prem, our love interest, and Karina's family, who, by the way, are the worst. Her family are awful. Her family, like particularly her sister, I felt that was it was too far. It was too far. And like, if I found out, without spoiling it, if I found out like that happened, I don't know if we would have had our happily ever after, is what I'll say. Oh, and oh my god, and Charlie. Why? Charlie, good sir Charlie, definitely dropped this book down a whole star. I rarely star rate a book now unless I can wrap my brain around it enough to figure it out, or it's a 5-star for me. But whatever this would be, like I don't know, it definitely dropped it down a whole star. And so I will say I didn't hate the garage scene and the egg scene. That was cute. Will I read from Nisha Sharma in the future? Most likely. Like I said, especially if she keeps going. I don't know if this is going to be like a series. I think this is, with these Shakespeare inspired works, but I love anything even resembling a retelling, so I'll probably, hopefully I won't complain about it. Okay, so next, I finally picked up a book I was supposed to read last year. And a lot of these are books I was supposed to read last year. It was one of my 23 books to read in 2023. I've been working through those pretty consistently, honestly, and I'm all caught up. I'm not all caught up with this author because she does those Disney Twisted Tales also, but for the books that are just her own thing, I'm caught up with Elizabeth Lim. I read 6 Crimson Cranes. We all know I loved Spin the Dawn. I also love Elizabeth Lim. I think she's very sweet and very lovely. I've been lucky enough to meet her a few times. I'm hoping she's doing a tour for the sequel that'll come near me, that'll hopefully be a Books of Wonder, because that's why I've met her in the past. Anyway, this book is a retelling of Hans Christian Andersen's The Wild Swans. We follow Shiori, who is a princess. She's the youngest child of the emperor. She's the only princess. She has six older brothers. Shiori also has a forbidden magic. Magic is forbidden in their kingdom in Kyoto, but Shiori is born with it somehow, and that attracts the attention of her stepmother, Raikama, who also is secretly a sorceress. That's not a spoiler, it's on the flap of the book. Long story short, Shiori and her brothers are banished by Raikama, and she turns Shiori's brothers, the princes, into cranes, and basically places a curse on Shiori that if she utters a word, she tells anybody the truth of what's going on, one of her brothers will die. Every time she opens her mouth, one of her brothers will die. This is the journey of Shiori trying to get back to her kingdom, break the curse, free herself and her brothers, and stop the evil that's going on in the kingdom. Meanwhile, there is a conspiracy going on to seize the throne from her father. They're on the brink of war. She is forced to team up with, what is his name? With a dragon named Suryu. Also her betrothed, who I didn't mention. In the beginning of the book, Shiori is dreading it. The book starts on the morning of her betrothal ceremony. She is dreading it. She refuses. She is doing everything in her power to get out of this betrothal, out of this marriage, because that will mean she leaves her family and goes to like the least desirable place in the whole kingdom. So she basically has to team up with both of them to break this curse, to get home, to set things aright. I love this book. I love Elizabeth Lim books, okay? I love the world she writes. I say worlds plural, even though this is technically set in the same world. It's not a sequel or anything. It's not technically attached to Spin the Dawn, but it is set in the same world. And I also love that because there are little Easter eggs to Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. And I love me an Easter egg. I love pointing it out and just be like, oh, I get that, oh, that's a reference, oh, you know. There's a lightness to Elizabeth Lim's books and characters that I really love and appreciate, especially lately when like it's so hard for me to get into books, to focus on books recently, to focus and concentrate on anything, honestly. Much like it was the same in Spin the Dawn. While there are darker things happening, like there's a lot of war, there are demons, there's magic, forbidden magic, all this jazz, there's still like this lightness, even like the characters, they feel young, but it's very refreshing. I say but, I don't mean like but like that's a bad thing, because these are YA books, they are young characters, but they are written in a way, they're so refreshing to read. And I cannot wait for The Dragon's Promise. I believe it comes out September? August or September. Like I said, I'm hoping that Elizabeth Lim goes on tour, and I think she's from New York or lives in New York. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that if she goes on tour, I can go up to New York to go to the book event. I haven't been to a book event. I'm not counting Y'all Fest. I haven't been to a book event, a book launch, a book signing since the last book signing I went to was Ryan LaSala's Reverie book tour, right before, like 2 months before the pandemic. So after 6 Crimson Cranes, I read another romance. I picked this up in the midst of reading. I think I did try to read Our Violent Ends. This is the first time I tried to pick it up. I think, sorry, I just realized I'm cracking my knuckles. I think I tried to read Our Violent Ends 3 separate times. I've picked it up. I just put it down for like the 3rd time, which goes back to what I was saying about me struggling to focus on what I'm reading. And so in the midst of that, me not being able to really focus and read what I wanted to read, I went back to a romance because that's my go-to when I am in a rut or trying to avoid a slump. And because I was reading books by Asian authors, I picked up Happy Endings by Tien Kim Lam. This book somehow just randomly ended up on my timeline. If I recall correctly, someone had retweeted a list of romance books by Asian authors, and I was drawn in by the cover. That I'd never heard of this author or this series or anything before, but I was very intrigued by the premise. This follows, what's her name, Trixie, who is a sex toy sales rep, and she wants to start her own shop, her own business. She wants to prove to her very traditional parents that she can be successful, make her own path in a non-traditional career. She's left home of New Orleans and moved to DC, where she basically has a run-in with her ex from New Orleans, Andre, who is currently struggling to keep his mother's restaurant open and thriving. He and his sister have inherited it and are trying to run it after his mother's recent death. He and Trixie run into each other when she is doing a pop-up shop in the restaurant for like a bachelorette party or something. Andre broke up with Trixie via Post-it, so there's beef between them. But the pop-up is such a success that they decide to team up to continue doing these sort of pop-ups to help her raise the money to open her own shop and to help him keep the enough income coming to keep the restaurant afloat. Obviously it's a romance, so sparks fly, spice ensues. It's like a second chance romance situation. So yeah, I had a lot of high hopes. I was very excited to read this. I thought the premise, I thought it was like Trixie being a sex toy sales rep was so cool, and like in theory it is, but I'm yelling. Am I yelling? Oh my god. But this, Lord Jesus, this book was painfully repetitive. I'm 0 for 2 with romances. I was 0 for 2 with romances for this month, and I hate everything about it. Okay, so I have two conflicting thoughts. At first I was gonna say I appreciate the fact that, so Andre is black, if you can't tell. That's a black man. And I appreciated the fact that, to me personally, I'm only speaking for moi, it didn't seem, his character didn't seem too stereotypical. The fact that they're running a soul food restaurant, it is what it is. But you know how black characters written by non-black people, even non-black people of color, you know how they can be. You know how they can be. We've got every single stereotype, the poorly written AAVE, everyone's got to be like the chicken head hood chick, sassy best friend, I don't know. But I didn't feel that with this book. There were some things that were a little if, like the fact that the constant emphasis on his dark skin. I got it. I get it. I know he's black. I saw the cover and you said it in the book. And his name is Andre Walker. I know 2 white people whose last names are Andre and Walker. Huh. Also, they're friends. So anyway, okay, so I have a note in my notes. Okay. There are some inconsistencies in the writing. There's a line where it says, all their arguing wore her out too. It took a lot of energy to stand her ground with him and not let her guard down, waiting for his next barb to hit her. Then I said, this doesn't happen. In this scene, she's angry and doesn't want to talk about the past. He owns what he's done, and like I don't recall them, they did not fully argue in this scene. There are no like real barbs thrown, so I don't get what was going on there, honestly. There are a lot of points where it gets really confusing with POVs in this book. They randomly change, and I don't mean paragraph to paragraph, which, you know, we've seen. There's a break that like gives you an indication that we are switching points of view. I'm talking like in the middle of a paragraph, and I don't understand what's being done here. And it happens frequently. You never like really know whose head you're in, and that takes you out of the book. It makes it unenjoyable. Also, God, I have a lot of notes. The passing of time is really weird in here, so I'll say about that. This is also completely, this might be random, but I didn't know how old Trixie was until page 290, which was about maybe 10 pages before the end of this book. What? Oh, okay. My last note says that the grand gesture and apology convo was awful. That's really all I can say without spoiling anything. It was awful. That's disappointing. But it all came together because the next book that I read after that was a balm to my soul. It was everything I needed and more. Everything I need and more. It's written all over your face. Iron Widow, I can see your halo. Anyway, I read Iron Widow in May. Finally. Another priority read of the year. Another one I was supposed to read last year. This book. How do I even describe this book? So it's described as Pacific Rim, which I've never seen, but Rihanna's in it, meets something or other. Meets something, I don't remember. This takes place in this futuristic Chinese inspired world, right? That is at war with these creatures. And so there are, I'm trying to think how to describe this. So there are soldiers basically that fight in these mechas, these chrysalises. And in this world, young girls are selected to be concubine pilots for these fighter pilots, which basically means they are giving their energy, their brain power, to be absorbed and drained by these men, which means they are killed in the process to fight this war. They're sacrificed for the war, essentially, is what I'm saying. Our main character, Zetien, her sister, has just been killed as a concubine pilot. She volunteers as tribute to avenge her sister, become the concubine pilot for the pilot that killed her, who was like the highest, most popular dude, and kill him. Yeah, absolutely. She surprisingly survives, and she, as punishment, is paired with Li Shimin, who is like the top ranked pilot. He is also a prisoner, a feared prisoner, and they are forced together. But my girl is now on a power trip. She is determined to be their nightmare. And look, my battery's flashing, so I don't know how much I can talk about this, but this book was everything to me. This book grabbed me by my neck, and it has not let me go. It is still dragging me around behind it, and I'm not complaining at all. I did film a full spoiler review of this, and I also like filmed me during the month reading it. So if you like to hear all my thoughts, if you are not trying to avoid spoilers, watch it. I'll link it. This book is everything. It's so layered. It's beautifully layered. It is beautifully written. It's beautifully woven. Oh my god, it touches on so many topics, and does it so well, and does it in a way that, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know. But like, obviously there are feminist topics that talk on, like, the power of women, misogyny, internalized misogyny, bodily autonomy, all this jazz. I mean, this is like the time to read it, is what I'm saying. But then we also have like conversation about toxic family. We have conversation about like gender and like gender identity. We have talks about Addiction. We have Itzy and the Iron Trio. Please read Iron Widow. Please thank me later. I am shaken to my core. I can't wait for book 2. I think that comes out soon. I actually don't know when it comes out. After that, I'm really struggling to beat this battery. After that, I read The Wild Ones by Nafisa Azad. Finally, this book follows a group of girls who have all been abused, abandoned, traumatized by their families, the world. Right, I don't know if the setup's the same. I don't know what I was saying before my camera died, and I'm sorry about the air, but it's very hot and very unhappy. I have ice water now. I was talking, I'm very close. I was talking about The Wild Ones by Nafisa Azad, and I was saying that this follows a group of girls who have all been abandoned, abused, traumatized, mistreated by the world, by their parents, by men. They have all been rescued by Paheli, who is the leader, whose story starts after her mother sells her to a man, and after she escapes, she encounters Tirana, who is this boy that has stars in his eyes. He tosses her a box of stars before he runs away, which kind of imbues her, the other word, with a magic of some sort. Now she can traverse worlds, basically, and each girl also is gifted with one of these stars. That is how they are able to obtain magic and extend their lives, basically gain access to the between, which is like the space between the world, it's like a realm between realms. You're able to travel between cities. They can only exist within cities for some reason that I still don't really understand. And they are known as the Wild Ones. They go around collecting other girls in similar predicaments, saving them, being there for them, or at least trying to help them pick up the pieces after they've been shattered, essentially. I keep doing this, I'm sorry. And then Tirana reappears, and he is in danger. His life is in danger, and he needs their help, their protection. And this basically follows that. This is a story of, it's basically a story of healing and reclaiming your power and strength. I'm kind of still sitting with it and trying to figure out my actual opinions on the book, if that makes sense. I did enjoy it. I did read it I did have an easy reading experience with the book, and I think the concept and the way the story is woven is you know, I think it's beautiful, but it's not it's not like a life-changing book, I don't think, right now. I don't know. I love the message behind it. I love like I said, how it is a story of healing, a story of healing after trauma. It is a story also where you're allowed to embrace your anger. I love stories where girls are allowed to be angry and find power and strength in that. I love this. Embrace this anger. This is in this is the ending of the book. Embrace this anger. Let it fuel your everydays. Defy everyone who tells you that you can't. Be wild. The format of the story is kind of interesting also, because it's like we're being told the story of the Wild Ones, and there are intervals between where each girl has her gets backstory. So I enjoyed it. There's just something missing that would have made it what I really wanted it to be. But I do see me reading this again. I think I'm gonna need to read this again to really dig deeper in it and to really find what I was missing. And then the last book I read in May, I listened to the audiobook. It is In Order to Live by Yumi Park. It is a memoir recalling Yumi's life in North Korea and her eventual escape from North Korea and all of the things she had to go through to get out of North Korea, and then to basically find her own feet once she was free, and the struggles that she went through to survive. This was really interesting. I don't think this is the first media I've really consumed really regarding North Korea. It's I don't know, for me it's always something you know of that's going on, you hear accounts, but like this is like the first really in-depth look, I guess, into someone's experience being what's it called? I don't remember the term, but like fleeing North Korea, growing up in North Korea, and even the struggle of her journey from North Korea to, was it to China, and then eventually to South Korea. It is not an easy story to absorb, to consume. It is very heavy. Obviously there are a lot of dark things that she went through. I am very glad that I listened to the audiobook. I started the audiobook because this was also when I was struggling to read in May. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you don't watch my videos, you probably don't know this. In May I was having, like, I'm always dealing with like fatigue. I deal with a lot of chronic fatigue, anemia, vitamin D deficiency. It all became like way too much in May. I don't know what was going on, but I thought at one point I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital. So I was really struggling through May, despite the events that I went to in May. So because like I didn't even have the strength to pick up a book physically or even my Kindle, I needed an audiobook. One of my goals for the year is to read more nonfiction, so that I was just perusing Audible and that popped up, so I'm like, that sounds perfect. And yeah, I definitely want to do more research about North Korea and people who have gotten out of North Korea. Say North Korea one more time. Oh my goodness. So those are the books that I read in May. So in June, I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit. In June, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I read 7 books, 2, 4, 5 physical books, and 2 ebooks. There were a lot of romance books involved. There were a lot of quick reads, and I'm thankful for that. Also, June was Pride Month, so I really did try to focus on reading books either centering queer characters or books by queer authors. So most of these books are. So first and foremost, in June I continued through my series of unfortunate events reread with The Wide Window. I'm currently filming a full vlog reading the whole series, or rereading the first 4 or 5 books of the series and then reading the rest of the series for the first time. I'm on book 4 now. There's not much to say. I've spoken plenty of times about how much I loved this series when I was in middle school, elementary school, middle school. The first 3 were always my favorites. I always read this book and read Aunt Josephine as Meryl Streep now. It's just fun to reread these books. My battery's about to die again. So after that, I read That Kind of Guy by Talia Hibbert, which is the 3rd in the Ravenswood series. We know I love Talia. I've also been working my way through all of her books. I think I'm almost done with all of them for the first time at least. This one follows, I don't remember his name. So in this book we follow Zach and Ray. We meet Ray, we meet them both in book 2, which is Untouchable, which follows Hannah and, what's that man's name? Nate. How do I forget that? That's my dad's name, which is probably why I repressed that. In fact, Zach is Nate's brother. Yeah, Nate's brother. Ray is new in town, and she is a writer. She's also an older woman, so we have that element going on. She is interested basically in a fake relationship. They are really close friends. They've become like really best friends. Basically, Zach's offered to be her fake boyfriend for this event she has to go to because, you know, she trusts him, and for him, he doesn't think there's any chance that like she'll try anything on her because he is practicing coming out with he is demisexual, so he feels like, you know, they're just friends, there's nothing going on. But as we go on, he starts developing actual feelings for her and realizes that he's into her. That is the quickest summary I can think of right now, and I love Talia Hibbert books. I love Talia Hibbert. This one, I will say, is not my favorite of the series. It's good, obviously, it's Talia Hibbert, let's be very real here, but you know, I don't know if I jump to reread it as many times as I reread, or at least reread parts of the other ones. The spice is spicing. But yeah, there's a novella for this series that I need to read. I have it, Damaged Goods, so I need to get into that. So after that, I read another ebook. I read What Are the Odds by Armed Virtues. I just picked this up. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time, and I'm so glad I did. I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. This one follows Kai, and I don't remember her name. I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. Basically, Kai, or the main character, Hi. Yep, it has been several hours. My battery's fully charged. I look like this now, which isn't much different than how I looked earlier. The air's still on because, you know, it's hot. So what was I saying? I'm gonna try to do this fast. What was I saying? I was talking about What Are the Odds. So this book follows Elena. In the time since I've been gone, I looked up her name. Elena and Kai, who previously were not only best friends but also in-laws. Caius is married to Elena's sister. They were very, very close during the relationship, during the marriage, and I believe for a bit after they got divorced, Elena's sister cheated on Kai, and then he really drastically pulled away and kind of cut her out of his life and her awful family. This picks up, I believe, like 2 years later, a year or two after that, and they run into each other in a bar. Elena's preparing for this big showcase, ballet final, I believe, ballet dance. I don't remember if she's just a dancer or a ballerina. Final, and she is preparing to leave to go to California to this dance school that she's been dreaming of getting into, without the support of her mother and sister, because like I mentioned before, they are awful and mistreat her and don't appreciate her, and her mother basically coddles her sister, puts all the pressure and responsibility and expectations on Elena. So they, like I said, run into each other and start hanging out again, and realize that there are feelings involved, and it's kind of just like navigating that and the, I guess, sort of weirdness that comes with it. Obviously, like, this was your sister's husband, and just kind of, I guess, Kai is trying to make sure that what he's feeling for Elena is completely independent of anything lingering with her sister, whose name I refuse to remember, or like kind of in spite of that. I really enjoyed this book. This was a pleasant surprise. This was like the first Armed Virtues book that I've read, and this was a nice place to start. The next one that I have in preparation to read, there's like a sleep paralysis demon involved, and I think he has 2 tongues. I could be wrong about that. Anywho, this was just a fun, quick, easy read. I love the writing style. I don't have a ton to say. I just really enjoyed the book, and I'm looking forward to continuing. I'm glad I found a new author to enjoy. We follow each other on Twitter, so I'm glad that I finally dove in, you know? What was I getting ready to say though? Don't remember. It's gone. After that, I read The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This was another one of my 23 books to read in 2023. This is a chunky McChunk. I was intimidated by this book going into it. This is an adult fantasy. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's in some way inspired by some Indian mythology, or like an Indian fairy tale of some sort. I don't remember, but basically this is a story following Malini, who is basically an exiled princess. She has been sent to this prison tower by her corrupt brother, who is the emperor, I believe. He's the ruler of this kingdom, and he wants her to sacrifice herself. She refuses. He locks her away until she'll do it. On the other side of this is Priya, who is a maidservant who has ties to the, I don't know how to say this, to the place where Malini is being kept prisoner. She used to be a child of the, what is this place called? The Harana? a child of the tower. These were kids gifted with like abilities of some sort, I believe. They're all supposed to be dead. She survived somehow, and now she's like back in this place where like all of her trauma happened. There is war looming. There are plans to overthrow Nalini's brother. There is a rebel plot going on the flip side of this. There are multiple POVs in this book. And yeah, there's a lot happening. It says, in a world beset by wild magic and turbulent uprising, it definitely felt very turbulent. I wanted to love this book. Like I said, I was very intimidated by this because it's very chunky. I don't know if that, I don't think that impacted my thoughts about it really too much. I did say that I'm pretty sure that this is a book that I'm going to have to reread at some point. This is one I definitely want to give a second chance. Maybe listen to the audiobook. It took a minute to get going. There was a lot of world building. There was a lot that needed to be set up regarding like the characters, the plot, where we were in the world, as far as not just, you know, where we are in the world, like what's happening in the world. I always figured that there were going to be the two dueling point of view. Also, I didn't mention that there's a romance brewing between the two girls. So this is also like a sapphic story. What was I saying? Oh, the 2 points of view. But there are quite a few points of view, and you know, it kind of reminded me of like the structure of Black Sun. And as when I read Black Sun, there were really only 2 POVs that I cared about. So all of the additional characters that I'm supposed to pay attention to or remember who they are, kind of it became a lot too much after a while. So I would have liked fewer POVs, just the main 2, and maybe a few interludes from different characters. I don't really remember too many more of my thoughts on this book. I just felt like I was trudging through for a lot of it. I think I had to take a couple breaks from reading it. I put this one down a couple times to read the 2 romances I just talked about. I read those in between reading this book. I could not focus on it at times. Just like I said, felt like I was trudging through. I never really cared about the characters too much, and I never was able to really get invested in the relationship between Nalini and Priya the way I wanted to, which is really disappointing. Will I read the sequel? Maybe eventually. Maybe eventually. Like I said, maybe after I reread this and when I give it a second chance, maybe I will eventually commit to the sequel, because I am a little bit curious to see where it goes. I love a little bit of war in my books, and coups and rebellion. So we'll see what happens, especially like after. We'll see. Okay, so after the Jasmine Throne, where is it? Okay. After the Jasmine Throne, I read another book that I have been meaning to get around to forever, and was such a pleasant surprise, and it's Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I finally got a copy of this at YALLFest, so I could get it signed by Aiden, because I believe my copy of Lost in the Neverwoods I had personalized when I ordered it online. Anyway, I finally picked this book up. This follows Yadriel, who is trying to prove to his family that he is actually a Brujo. His family are a family of how would you pronounce it? Brujiks. They can see spirits, and the Brujas have the ability to heal. The Brujos have the ability to, I guess, help spirits transfer into the next life. And his family has trouble accepting him as a Brujo because he is trans. So he and his cousin Maritza take upon themselves to perform the rites themselves and gain the blessing of their deity to prove that Yadriel is indeed a true Brujo. When their other cousin goes missing, Yadriel thinks that he can conjure the spirit of his cousin to find out what happened. He accidentally summons Julian Diaz. And this is the story of finding out what happened. They believe that that Miguel's disappearance and Julian's death are connected, and they're trying to get to the root of what's happened, trying to find his cousin, trying to find Julian's murder. And yeah, this was so cute and fun and just lovely. I just really enjoyed this book. I love these characters. I love Julian. He is a golden retriever in human form. And oh, OMG, yesterday, was it? Aiden has announced that there is going to be a sequel to this book, and I'm so stoked. Like, this was the perfect time for that announcement to come, when I've just like realized how much I love this book. So that's perfect. I don't remember when it comes out. I guess sometime in 2023, but as soon as I am able to pre-order it, I don't know if it's available. I don't know if it's available for pre-order yet, but I'm going to. Aiden also has another book coming out this year, the Sunbearer Trials, and I'm even more excited to read that now that I'm familiar with Aiden's writing and love this book. I'm definitely going to pick it up at some point. I have, like I said, Lost in the Neverwoods, but I've stated a rule with myself that I'm not allowed to read any other Peter Pan retellings until I finish writing mine. I have that. I have Darling. This was great. This was such a great debut novel, and it wasn't that long. I flew through this book. It felt like I read it in one sitting instead of like a period of a few days. This was my favorite read of June. And then we have two more really quick romance reads. The first one's like a dark romance erotica. Here we are. I read Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. I finally started the Wicked Villains series. If you don't know, these books are twists on Disney characters, and it usually follows like a character and one of a Disney villain. This one is Jafar and Jasmine. Jafar is the daughter of this, I don't want to call him a crime boss, but crime boss essentially. She's like the princess of their like underground world, underground network, and when her father is betrayed, she tries to strike a bargain for her freedom and ends up being owned by Jafar, and he plans to like flaunt her and get her to submit, yada yada yada. There is a sex club, sex dungeon involved called the Underworld, I believe, which is run by Hades. His and Meg's book is the second book. I have that on my Kindle, but I do want a physical copy. I would like to have the whole series in physical form. And yeah, yep. I will say, going into this, it was quite out of my comfort zone for like the type of like romance books I read. I don't usually read like dark romances. I usually read like cinnamon roll hero, blah 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 blah. Not always, but you know. I mean I am familiar with Katie Robert. I read her other series, really enjoyed that, really loved those books. So I knew I was going to like this book, despite like the things that made me go, what? Yeah, Jafar and Jasmine is a pairing that I, in 1993, wouldn't support. I mean, obviously I wouldn't either, I was a child, but you know, animated Jafar and Jasmine, not really. New Jafar and Jasmine, he's still an old man. But the whole vibe of this book is the scene when was it 1993 when that movie came out? It doesn't matter. The scene in 90s Aladdin when Jafar has captured Jasmine and she's in the sand thing that I can't think of with the red. Thank you so much. The hourglass. I gotta go. This was easier before you came home. I could embarrass myself privately. The hourglass, and she's in the red ensemble looking amazing. That's the whole vibe of this book, and I can't wait to continue the series. I'm doing a vlog of me reading the whole series just for future reference. Like I said, the next pairing is Meg and Hades, period, and then the third one is Tink and Hook. You should know already going in that Hook in my head is Colin O'Donoghue. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, there are things that happen in this book that I'm going to be thinking about for a very long time. And then I finished the month with Isn't It Romantic by Alyssa K. Adams, which is the fourth in the romance book club series. I thought this was going to be the last one. We're getting a new one in November following Colton. I guess she's going to do one for each of the guys in the club. Fine. I was satisfied with 4. This one follows Vlad, or as he's known through the rest of the books as the Russian. Basically is in a marriage of convenience. When he moved to the US and got signed to his hockey team, he's a professional hockey player, he proposed to his childhood best friend to basically help her build a new life after the disappearance and presumed death of her father, who was a journalist trying to uncover things he should not have been snooping into. What do you need? Oh, so I really wasn't thinking about Jasmine and Jafar in any sort of way, despite the fact that I did kiss my Aladdin doll. Anyway, oh, so she moves to the US. Elena, did I say that? Elena moves to the US, and immediately their marriage is not what Vlad anticipated or hoped for. She is very withdrawn from him. She then decides she wants to go to college in Chicago from Tennessee. So they have been living the last 6 years of their relationship separate. But he decides he wants better for himself. He loves the manuals, as we call the romance books. He wants his romance, his happily ever after. And he decides he wants to tell Elena that he wants a real marriage with her. And she's like, I want a divorce. I'm sorry. Long story short, he gets injured on the ice and she decides to come take care of him, help him heal. And in the process, it's like healing their relationship, bringing them closer together, all that jazz. So going into this, I was skeptical. I was nervous because Vlad is my least favorite, has been previously my least favorite character. I've said this many times. If you've listened to me at any other time I talked about these books, he's always felt like this flat character, this caricature of like a Russian character. He's felt like just comedic relief. You know, he has stomach problems, he eats a lot of cheese, blah blah blah. And I was hoping going into this that this story would give him more depth as a character, would make him a real life person, and I definitely can say that it did do that. What else can I say for sure about this book? Book 3 is still my favorite of the series. This wasn't bad, it was just kind of dull. When I read book 3 a couple months ago, I said that I finally felt like I was actually convinced of the chemistry between the couple, between Noah and what's her face, Alexis. I was not convinced of anything going on here. I don't know. I like Vlad as a character, I guess. I like the second chance. I like how they look after each other, but I feel like no chemistry, right? I don't think it's the story. I don't think it's the coupling. I think Miss Alyssa, I think, what's the word I want to use? Lust, I'll say, is not her strong suit. This one by far had the worst sex of the 4. I'm gonna say that. Boo, tomato, tomato. But, you know, the book's fine. The book's good. I'll probably read it again. I like Vlad. I like that he's this like big tough hockey man. But he's like soft, sweet boy who loves romance books, loves animals, cries a lot. I could have done without like the cheese obsession. I've never been one of those. I eat cheese, but I've never been like, cheese, oh my god. Also haven't really, I don't want to say I haven't, like as a end all be all period statement, I've barely had any cheese in like 3 years. So, because I also have stomach issues. But I will say, reading this, I'm like, I definitely need to look in to see if I have a gluten intolerance when I go to the doctor this month. Do I have any other thoughts about that book? Not at all. I'll most likely pick up the next one. I'm in it. I'm too far in it to like not finish the series, you know? Also, I really do like the covers of these books. I really do. So those are the books that I read in May and June. Hopefully, I will see you at the end of this month, of July, to discuss the books that I read in July. Thank you for watching. Let me know your favorite book you've read within the last couple of months. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below so you can follow me, and I'll follow you back, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. I have to burp so bad. What was I saying?